Good evening. This is the Planning and Zoning Commission for the Village of Vernon Hills. We need to start with a roll call, please.
Chairman Morris,
Here.
Commissioner Baloo,
Present.
Commissioner Cotton, Commissioner Hesner,
Here.
Commissioner Heidner, Commissioner Mulcrone,
Here.
Commissioner Garak.
Here. Okay, we have a quorum. This evening, we have a public hearing on case number 1603, which is a petition seeking to amend and seek relief from Ordinance 683, Amendment C, for approval of an amendment to Ordinance 96-30, approval of a special use permit for a planned unit development, approval of a certain special use permit to allow restaurants with carry-out and fast food, a drive-through bank, and a drive-through facility and pharmacy with drive-through, preliminary and final site and landscape plan approvals, preliminary and final architectural elevation approvals, and preliminary and final plat of subdivision approvals. This property, if you don't know where it is or what it is commonly known or located at the northeast corner of Milwaukee Route 21 and Townline Road Route 60. This evening, whoever is going to give testimony or speak on behalf of the petitioner, we'd ask you to come forward, identify yourself for the record, and we'll swear everyone in together. Okay. Because we work on a microphone system, all your speaking has to be done either at the permanent podium where the microphones are or using one of the handhelds.
My name is Stephen Elrod, law firm of Holland & Knight.
Matthew Hendy with Regency Centers.
Vicki Lee with Focus Development.
Tim Anderson with Focus Development.
Aaron Gruen with Gruen Plus Associates.
Peter Evans with Moran and Company.
Louis Abuna with KLOA.
Jesse Conrad, Manhard Consulting.
Anyone else? Okay, we ask you to remain standing, raise your right hand. We ask that you swear or affirm that this testimony you're about to give before this commission of the Village of Vernon Hills shall be the truth. Yes. All right, you are on.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Plan Commission, staff. I'm so glad to be here. My name again is Stephen Elrod. I'm with the law firm of Holland & Knight, and I'm the attorney representing the development team that will be presenting the proposal to you tonight. I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview, but let me say on behalf of our team, who I'll introduce in just a second, we're thrilled to be in Vernon Hills. We've worked quite a bit with your staff, and they are top-notch, very professional, and you should deserve to be very proud of them. We are proud to be developing in Vernon Hills, and we have several evenings of a presentation for you because it's a project that's quite significant, but also we think quite in keeping with the village. Let me introduce our development team. And I'll ask you to stand, even though some of you have already stood up. From Regency Centers, Matthew Hendy, Nick Wibbenmeyer, and Elisa Madigan. From Focus, right now we have here Tim Anderson and Vicki Lee. Our consultants include our land planner and land consultant, Aaron Gruen from Gruen & Gruen, Jesse Conrad from Manhart. Incidentally, Pete Manhart is also here, a resident of the village of Vernon Hills. Louis Abuna from KLOA. Louis stepped out, but you met him just a moment ago. And the other experts that are listed on the slide that's before you will be here on subsequent evenings. In working with your staff, we spaced out and planned out the various presentations. We'll introduce them, and Mr. Chairman will have them sworn in when they are here. Our property is located, as you indicated, Mr. Chairman, at the northeast corner of Milwaukee and Townline Road. It's a 53-acre parcel. As you'll learn, only part of it is being developed. The remainder is 16 acres will be in conservancy and undeveloped. It's located in the village's B1 General Business District, and it's surrounded by retail commercial to the south, retail commercial to the west, medical office that's outside of the village to the north, and the Des Plaines River and Lake County Forest Preserve District to the east. The owner is a land trust controlled by the John F. Cuneo Trust. Actually, this property was part of the Cuneo estate that was at one time about 3,000 acres. This was the southeasternmost portion of the Cuneo property. And as such, the property is governed by a number of documents, particularly those that were put into place when the property was annexed to the village of Vernon Hills in the 90s. The documents that govern the property include a joint local land resource management plan and agreement for the entire Cuneo property that was adopted in 1995, an agreement for sanitary sewer and water supply services with Lake County and the village that was adopted in 1996, a declaration of protective covenants, conditions, and restrictions that includes a restriction or a prohibition on residential use on this property that was adopted back in 1996. The Village of Vernon Hills Ordinance Number 683, which granted a regional plan development permit for the entire Cuneo site. The Village of Vernon Hills Ordinance Number 96-30, which adopted the land management standards that were set forth in the land management agreement. Your own comprehensive plan, and of course, your zoning code, which is Appendix C to your municipal code. The relief that we are requesting includes a special use permit for a planned development in your B1 district, with related variances for building height, landscape buffer, yards and setbacks, building separation, signage, and parking. Many of these variances are not to your ordinance, but rather to the 1996 land resource plan that was first put into effect. We're also seeking, as part of the plan development, which is a mixed-use plan development, special use permits for restaurants with alcohol services, restaurants with carry-out and drive-through services, a bank with a drive-through service, pharmacy with a drive-through service, and then we're seeking landscape approval, architectural elevation approval, and plat of subdivision approval. All of this has been spelled out in our application to you, as well as in the provisions of your staff report that Mr. Carey put together. We've provided written responses to demonstrate our compliance with the standards in Section 18.3 of your zoning code, and through testimony tonight by our experts and by our resident owners and developers, we will further demonstrate to you that our proposal is consistent with the village's comprehensive planning for the area and is consistent with the orderly growth of the surrounding area. We believe that you'll find, after hearing our complete presentation tonight and over the next several weeks, and after allowing us to respond to concerns that you may have, that you'll find that this development will be beneficial for the village and will have a positive impact to the residents of the village. The way we're going to proceed after talking with your staff is, again, to present our proposal over the course of several evenings. Tonight, I am going to first introduce to you the key development team, Regency and Focus. We'll then have testimony on the key element of our proposal, the planned use development. And Aaron Gruen will talk about mixed-use developments and retail trends. We will then give you an overall discussion of our site plan, move into the retail portion of the site plan, then move to the residential portion of the site plan, and then end the evening with our public and private improvements. First, a traffic presentation, and then our on-site engineering. In subsequent weeks, we will deal with the architecture for the retail site, the architecture for the residential site, although some of the latter will be covered tonight, our landscaping on both the residential and the retail, as well as our signage plan. I know, Mr. Chairman, that you're also considering relief from an ordinance that is one of the governing documents that I discussed earlier, and I don't know if you want to talk about that now or after we're complete with our presentation.
With respect to the relief from Ordinance 9630, we can talk about it now and talk about what it intends to do. We're going to defer voting on it until next week because we're going to correct a Scrivener's error in what is in our packets. So the commission is looking at what will be the corrected or the appropriate ordinance.
Right.
But at this point, if we want to, Bob, you want to address it, what we're seeking to do from an intention standpoint, that we can talk about first, perhaps as a predicate to this.
And then we'll proceed with our presentation. Thank you.
Okay.
For the record, my name is Bob Kenny. I'm one of the village attorneys. Based on a number of the documents that Mr. Elrod detailed in the beginning of his presentation, one of those documents is Ordinance 9630, and it had some land use type of provisions that involved Lake County. And one of those provisions indicated that Lake County had the ability to have prior written approval before the village could approve any final plats. And in discussions with Lake County, what this amendment is doing is, in my opinion, just changing a procedural issue and making it more clear about how the village can proceed, and by way of the county agreeing that so long as a final plan that the village might consider that has no more than 265 residential units and not less than 260,000 gross square feet of commercial, if our final plan includes provisions to that effect, then the county is not going to require final pre-approval. And so the county has indicated their approval to allow the village to amend an amendment to 9630 to allow that to happen. Now, the end result of that does not approve anything for this project. This project still has to stand on its own merits. They still have to make the entire presentation to you and to the village board. But what it does do is it eliminates our requirement to go to Lake County first. And that really puts it back into a normal process that we've had on every other project. So it's procedural, it's housekeeping from my perspective, but if the village does that up front, then we are back to a normal process and we don't have to go back and forth with the county.
And the county has been given notice of this proposed amendment?
Yes, they're aware of it. There's a number of county documents that are in discussion. This is one of them, and they are aware and have approved at a staff level the language, and they're going through the same process we are along those lines.
Okay.
So what is the timing that you foresee on the county approval of that?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
The county approval, is there a timing on that?
They are starting their review process at the same time as we are, but their review process is not nearly in depth as this. They are only looking at documentations having to do with the sewer and water agreement and the covenant. They're not looking at the depths of the project. That's still within our purview, though that matters will be presented to the Lake County committees within the next month, and we expect Lake County board approval within the next month.
Anybody else? Okay. And just for the record, the Melody Farm proposal, I'll call it at this point, for this evening and for these future evenings, does not seek more than 285,000 gross feet of commercial, nor does it seek more than 265 residential units. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Okay. So what we'll do is we will consider then the motion that we would make with respect to the amendment to 9630 next week when we have in our packets the version of the amendment that has this Scrivener's error corrected in it. Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And for the record, the property owner and the developer has no objection to the proposed amendment, and we will say that we've been part of the discussions between the village and the county, and we're very impressed at the cooperation between the two and the direction that this is headed, seeking to lift the restrictions that would have otherwise prevented us from being here tonight. So we look forward to those approvals as well. So we will move on with our presentation. We're going to start with just giving you a little bit of introduction and background to the key developers of the site. Both Regency and Focus are here. Matt Hendy on behalf of Regency, and then Tim Anderson on behalf of Focus.
Good evening. My name is Matt Hendy. I'm with Regency Centers. Good evening to you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Really appreciate the time this evening. We're very excited to begin this process with you in the village. It's taken a long time to get this point, but we truly are, I know I can speak for all of our teams relative to this project, that this is something we've been very much looking forward to, your feedback, and moving this process forward. The goal of introducing ourselves tonight is to talk a little bit about our national reach and expertise. Regency Centers is a publicly traded company on the New York Stock Exchange. We were founded in the 1960s, went public in the early 1990s, but really we still function as a very localized real estate group. Our team here locally in Oak Brook, most of us have been around for over 10 years and founded that office. We handle all aspects of managing, operating, development, leasing. Everything happens out of our office here in Oak Brook for all of our shopping centers here in the upper Midwest. As a company, we have 311 shopping centers currently across the country, encompassing over 40 million square feet. We do have a little bit of a niche in the development business compared to a lot of our retail REIT peers that are publicly traded. We do have a robust development program. That development program has been very active. Since the early 2000s, we've developed over $1 billion worth of real estate, but more recently, since 2012, we've invested over $500 million in new development starts on the nationwide platform. Several of those developments are here locally. We completed a Mariano's anchored project in Glenview not too long ago, and we're still in the middle of our phase 2 down in Schererville, Indiana, which is a Whole Foods anchored project in Schererville at 41 in Maine. But I know I can speak for all of our team here when we say that we're all local Chicagoans. We're very excited about building such a large and transformative mixed-use project in your community, and we look forward to this process. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Tim Anderson to talk about Focus.
Thank you, Matt. I, too, am very happy to be here. We're excited about the opportunity at 60 in Milwaukee and in Vernon Hills. I think it's a great opportunity for us to do something very special. I'm going to skip this for a second and go right to Focus Development. Focus Development, I founded the company about 23 years ago. I'm the CEO and the owner of the company. We use an integrated development method in terms of delivery method of development, where we are the developers and the general contractors of everything we develop. In addition, we also are general contractors for other people. We currently have in development in the Chicago area about 1,000 apartments, from something that would be in lease-up mode to something that's under construction and to something that's in development, meaning what we're doing here at Vernon before you tonight. We use institutional investors in our developments, and they are institutional grade developments that we work on. Just a little bit of a variety of what we do in terms of my background. I was an architect for 10 years before I went to work for an architect developer contractor, and then eventually started my own company. So we are very interested in the design, but just give you an idea, in the upper left-hand corner, you can see a development that we were the general contractor on for Taxman Corporation here in Vernon Hills. So we got to understand the village and the people here, and really had a positive experience working on that project with Cy Taxman. Right in the middle there is the Parker. It's a 227-unit high-rise that we're doing in downtown Chicago in the Fulton Market District, and kind of shows you a variety of the range of what we do. This is Courthouse in the middle, which is currently just finishing up construction in downtown Wheaton. And then to the lower left-hand corner is the Reserve in Glenview, which is a building that would be more similar to what we're talking about doing in Vernon Hills here at 60 in Milwaukee, and was part of a coordinated effort with Regency to develop something within a retail and a residential environment. And I'm really excited about this opportunity because building residential that's really more integrated with retail in a walkable environment, I think is the forefront of thinking in terms of suburban planning, and I think to bring that to Vernon Hills would be very exciting from my perspective. So I'd like to turn it back over to Steve Elrod.
So we believe we have before you highly experienced and reputable developers that have worked well together and are familiar with the village and the Chicago metropolitan area. Because we take seriously your process and the standards concerning that we must prove up for the relief that we are requesting, we thought it would be very helpful to hear testimony from an expert in the field of economic and real estate and land planning. Aaron Gruen is a principal at Gruen & Gruen. His firm works for both the public sector as well as the private sector. He provides land planning consultation services to more than 75 communities, local governments, municipalities, as well as to developers. Very active in ULI, the Urban Land Institute, and is a frequent speaker at the ICSC, International Council of Shopping Centers. This is right in his wheelhouse, and he spent a lot of time with us evaluating our plan and has words that he'd like to present to you concerning current trends in community development and retail development. Aaron Gruen.
The only challenge here is getting the PowerPoint to move. Which one is it? Oh, this one. That's going to be the hardest task. I'm going to briefly talk about trends that are impacting development and land use, and how this project, I believe, responds to the contemporary requirements for success. I've got some prepared remarks because I've been told to be brief, so this won't last long. Both demographic and behavioral shifts suggest retail will not return to what it was prior to the Great Recession. A major shift has been the continued growth of online shopping. In addition, a shift in preferences has occurred from the purchase of shopper goods to the purchase of experiences. This is particularly true for millennials, but it also holds true for all demographic cohorts, including millennials' parents, the baby boomers. There's an increasing tendency for consumers to spend those dollars on eating out, pet care, health and fitness, and entertainment venues. One effect of slowing household growth and income stagnation and polarization that we've heard about this election season includes retailers engaging in battles for market share. As indicated by the stark differences in operating and financial performance between Walmart and Sears or Kmart, market share battles have evolved into battles of winners and losers. Retailing will and has and will continue to undergo revolutionary shifts driven by continuous changes in demography, attitudes, and tastes of consumers, and technology. Differentiated retailers will be the long-term winners in terms of market share and profitability. Retailing and retail center development opportunities are now primarily based on niches and replacement of obsolete formats and concepts. One lesson that's true wherever you are in this country: if consumers are provided an ordinary experience at a below-average retail center, many will travel further to a high-quality center, or they'll shop online. As the competition from on-the-ground retail space as well as internet or e-tailing shopping expands, it's important for shopping to be perceived as fun, safe, and hassle-free. Advances in telecommunications decrease the relative importance of geographic distance at the cost of dramatically increasing the shortage of time. In the new economy, time is one of our scarcest resources. Even Bill Gates faces scarcity, the scarcity of time. Now, the increasing importance of the dimension of time is a primary reason for the shift from segregated single land uses towards planned mixed-use development. Locations that provide the most accessible places are no longer enough for success. Also are required are places that provide the most quality of time. The increasing importance of time and the growth of e-tailing suggests e-tailing or internet shopping will increasingly substitute for the purchase of standard commodities that are not fun or convenient to buy in person. Planned developments need to be large and diverse enough to facilitate multi-purpose shopping and service trips. To survive the competitive threat from the internet, as well as existing and future existing competing centers, well-designed, accessible centers with plentiful parking and a diverse set of uses and attractions, like the proposed Regency Center's planned development, are more likely to produce successful stores than freestanding big box or single land use locations. Now, a restaurant row needs to be placed in a highly visible location with landscaping and signage techniques that serve to attract residents and workers, as well as travelers through Townline Road and Milwaukee Avenue. A cluster of restaurants can typically penetrate a deeper area because consumers have the added confidence that if they cannot get into one restaurant, other options are available. This is what is provided for in the proposed retail component. The restaurants will also help lease the proposed apartment component. As just announced by Macy's, which is putting money into e-tailing and closing many stores and focusing on their most successful stores, many retail chains will close their less successful stores, and freestanding stores not part of a mixed-use development or Main Street setting are likely to be most susceptible to closure. This slide shows some of the development characteristic municipal policy appropriately supports. It is important that the proposed Regency Center's planned development does create and maintain the right blend of an accessible, secure development with well-integrated parking and an upscale tenant mix in a physical setting that itself serves as an attraction. Landing a Whole Foods is a sign that the neighborhood or community has arrived. The upscale grocery store increases the appeal of a location to residents, particularly the renters of the proposed residential component, and spillovers quality customer traffic to adjoining stores. The presence of Whole Foods signals to other tenants that the customers will be highly educated and higher income. Now, a developer and a municipality need to answer the question, why will customers or consumers want to take the time and trouble to come to the development or shopping area? Excitement, fun, convenience, safety, and hassle-free access and parking are typical attributes that should be incorporated. Unique to market tendencies and unique physical and landscaping character serve as long-run competitive advantages over standard tendencies and design. Retail stores, particularly specialty stores and restaurants, depend upon foot traffic and visibility as a primary advantage to attracting customers. It's important for restaurants and retailers to be near other stores, to be visible, have sufficient parking, and to offer an inviting presence. Visibility is also important to service businesses because people will notice their locations and remember it the next time that service is needed. Accessibility and convenience is also important. The Regency Center's mixed-use plan development is laid out to offer the accessibility, visibility, and parking needed to help merchandise the stores and capture customers.
Aaron, thank you. We felt it was important to get that context put on the record, address concerns that we know have been raised by commissioners, and we want to be responsive to this commission. We want to be responsive to your staff, and we will continue to do that as questions come our way. With that background, we're going to delve right into our site plan. Matt Hendy is going to provide an overview of the entire site plan and give you a little bit of history as to how this site plan evolved.
if I may, I'm going to go backwards a couple slides. So I think it's important to start here. In retail real estate circles, I started my career as a broker, and the best retail nodes in and around Chicago, in and around every market, are well known to everybody, and Vernon Hills is one of those. When a retailer seeks to come to Chicagoland, they make themselves a list and they say, hey, we should do a store in the city, we should do a store in Oak Brook, we should do a store in Skokie, we should do a store in Schaumburg. In the past, all of those retailers had said yes to Vernon Hills and had come here, whether they came to Hawthorne Mall or the surrounding retail you see on this site. One of the things that I think Aaron touched on that makes a lot of sense to begin this part of the presentation is that higher echelon, that upper echelon of tenants that traditionally did go to Oak Brook and Schaumburg and elsewhere for 30 years have not come to Vernon Hills. And what we are seeking to do, what Regency does, is we try and build places where people want to come and where those higher end tenants want to be. And as Aaron spoke about, Whole Foods is that anchor. They are the ones in today's market that those higher end tenants seek to follow because, as Aaron testified, they draw a different type of shopper. That shopper exists in Vernon Hills. That shopper has been underserviced and underutilized for a long period of time. And to us, in the retail world, we look for dynamic pieces of real estate where tenants like Whole Foods and others would want to be. And in Vernon Hills, there exists such a piece of real estate, and that is the piece of real estate we're talking about tonight. It is an extremely important corner, not just for Vernon Hills, but also for the entire county and really the entire North Metroplex. There's over 80,000 cars a day that pass by the site, and we certainly take it as our grave responsibility to make sure what we are proposing here fits within the context of the crown jewel of a site that we know the village thinks that this piece of real estate is, and we concur with. So with that in mind, the site is about 55 total acres. The 16 acres roughly that are on the eastern side of the site, closest to Des Plaines River, is undevelopable. There exists a floodway. As you can see, the river comes through here, and there exists a floodway right through this portion of the property. Everything in this area is completely undevelopable. It is within the Army Corps of Engineers jurisdiction. In fact, when we did our environmental testing, we were not even able to put motorized vehicles on that piece of property without their consent. We actually had to do all of our environmental testing by hand with hand augers over here in this area of the site. So we cannot build in that area of the site. It needs to remain wild, it needs to remain green, and that is our intention to leave it as such, which leaves us with the remaining acreage here that borders both Milwaukee and Townline Road. We are proposing...
If you're noting something with the pointer, it doesn't translate well to the computer because that's what's going to be televised, and that's the visual record, so you should probably use the cursor. Okay.
Is this better?
Thank you. Yes.
Very good. How far, Mr. Chairman, would you like me to go backwards?
I think we understand where you were, but just
Okay.
going forward.
So we are proposing, and you'll hear our traffic analysis in a little bit, to add a traffic signal along Townline Road. As we talked with retailers, one of the major things that drove the site plan we're going to talk about here in a second is convenient access on and off Townline Road. Given there are over 45,000 cars a day on Townline Road, it serves as a distinct feeder for everyone headed to the east to the highway or to the east to any of the various office complexes that exist to the east. Not sure if you know, but within 2.5 miles of this site, there exists over seven different Fortune 500 companies, either world headquarters or their regional headquarters. It's an extremely important office connector for all of the folks in West Lake County and even East McHenry County. Our retailers desired to be close to Townline Road, and that really drove our site plan initial layout, that retail wanted to be so far to the south, and it let us think about having residential to the north. So the focus team will talk more about the residential portion to the north in a second, but for orientation purposes, this is Townline Road, and this is Milwaukee Avenue. As Mr. Gruen testified, Whole Foods, obviously a major driver here. The Whole Foods is laid out currently is this box here on the corner. And the types of retail that come with that higher demographic are also very keen on other things, such as the sense of place, how their customers will interact not only with their store, within their store, but with the folks around them. So what we tried to do here with our site plan, and this is version 150 or so from our blank slate, is we tried to create a dynamic environment and a unique environment. And you'll see it in our architecture that we wanted to create a sense of place that was different from all other suburbs, a sense of place where these retailers and consumers alike could intertwine in an active and engaged environment where they're pressed upon each other. And what I mean by that is we pressed our buildings up against Milwaukee Road, Milwaukee Avenue, next to Whole Foods, and we're telling tenants that they have to put their front doors facing inwards. And on the back, the tenants in the back would have to face their doors facing west, creating this energy within the project that folds upon itself. We have various other buildings that are also going to have different front doors in different locations. For example, this building here, its front doors would face east, creating a dynamic area here in this triangle, and this side of the building here would face west, creating energy with Whole Foods, creating energy with buildings out on the street. And then our two floating buildings here in the middle, they would have front doors that are on the corners, potentially front doors that face the parking, and certainly doors that face our park area, which we're excited to reveal in subsequent presentations. But when you start to really think about the retail, you've got convenient access off of Townline Road, you have convenient access up and down Milwaukee, and you have this dynamic environment in a upside-down horseshoe here with 20-foot wide sidewalks for easy pedestrian access that creates a sense of place. And combined with our architecture, it will be a dynamic retailing environment. It will be a dynamic environment where folks go just to go have dinner and then stay and mingle. We plan on heavy programming on this project. We're really excited to talk about that. We have a specific area here in the middle, as well as an area off to the east of that park, where we plan on doing heavy programming such as potential farmers markets, art fairs, connectivity to the Des Plaines River Trail, whether that's sponsoring 5K races or family bike outings. We want people to come here. We want people to view it as a place where they can stay and linger, and we want to view it as a place that people want to come, hang out, and then engage in the surrounding environment outside of our site, whether that's the Des Plaines River Trail or whether that's the retail or the residential off to the north that we're excited about. One thing I'm sure the Focus team will touch on is, given this is a mixed-use project, a lot of times when you think of mixed use, it's retail on the first floor and residential up above. That can meet with mixed success in suburban markets. So we wanted to take it an innovative step further and make something a little bit different than usual compared to other suburban mixed-use projects. And one of the things we're very excited about is Focus is putting their main hub of their entire building right here. That'll be their leasing office and other amenities in which they'll talk about. But it really completes that horseshoe. It forces people to intermix between the two uses of the residential and the retail, and it also connects into our walkable area and our walkable environment. With all that in mind, I can say we have taken great strides and great pride in putting together this site plan. We feel that it's going to do several things for our customers as well as for our retailers. One, it's going to provide great visibility within the market to the site, great visibility to the buildings. It'll create a sense of intrigue as you're driving by. You're going to wonder what's going on in there. There's buildings close to the road. There's not a lot of great view quarters back into the parking area, but there's certainly great view quarters to the buildings that front the roadway. And we hope to create that sense of intrigue that'll bring people into the shopping center environment. We also hope to create, through that sense of environment, a great place where consumers, like I said, can hang out, as well as where our retailers can thrive by creating a dynamic environment that will draw from many miles away. We're very sure that there's a lot of great retail already in town, and we are excited to bring that next tranche of retail that up until now hasn't yet made it to Vernon Hills. We're getting a lot of anxious retailers on our side who are very eager to be a part of such a project, certainly with our anchor as well in tow. And we look forward to talking with you more about the architecture in future discussions. The theme and the little bit of the touching on the architecture is based on an urban vibe. So the vision of what we're talking about in creating this environment is thoughtful design taken from urban environments. And we'll speak a lot more of that in the future, but given the name Melody Farm, which we came up with, we did want to put Hawthorne Mall and Melody Farm back together again with an ode towards the Hawthorne Melody Dairy Farm. And you will find in this project there are going to be lots of different homages to the small town heritage, to the dairy that everyone remembers from back in the 60s and 70s as well, but with a new flair, a new twist that is not found in suburban markets. And then the architecture is just another quick preview. It has to be authentic. It has to be a dynamic brand of architecture that suburban markets haven't seen before. This is what the type of retailers we're talking to are interested in. More and more these retailers are popping up in places like Bucktown or on the Southport Corridor or even in the West Loop and in Fulton Market. They haven't seen something like this before in a suburban area that, with a layout such as ours that creates that same sense of energy, or hopefully attempts to create that same sort of energy that you might find in an area other than in suburbia. And then just a couple of teaser shots relative to the type of architecture we're talking about, that unique dynamic brand of urbanism combined with generous outdoor areas with our 20-foot sidewalks and with our gathering areas in the middle of the project. Our goal is to create a sense of place that truly is different, and a sense that you truly have arrived as soon as you come in from Milwaukee or Townline, that you are in a different place with different types of retail and experiences awaiting you. So with that in mind, I'll turn it over to Vicki.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, as well as the village staff. My name is Vicki Lee, Development Manager for Focus Development. And tonight I will be presenting to you the residential portion of the development. You know, I think that Matt said it really well when he was describing his vision for the entire site in terms of, one, relating back to the history of Hawthorne Melody Farms, as well as keeping up with the trends, current market trends, in terms of mixed use, Fulton Market warehouse look. And so when we were designing our plan with Regency, several things were very important to us. One of which is also to pay homage to the Hawthorne Melody Farm. Two, to create a distinct residential style so that retailers and shoppers can look at the building and see that it's a residential building, while at the same time, three, maintaining a relatability to the retail itself through both the architectural style as well as the site plan. So when you're looking at this diagram here, even though our building is located in the northeastern corner of the site, you'll notice that we are essentially, like Matt said, forming an edge with the retail by locating the entrance of our building here, so that all the energy from consumers and shoppers as they're shopping around this entire site feels as if this is a very cohesive development developed by maybe one developer. Some general logistics in regards to access to our site. Residents would come in through this northwestern driveway here, either make a left to the surface parking or make a right and come into the garage. And future or potential tenants would keep driving just a little bit more to this parking for leasing area and come into the building this way. Diving in a little bit more into the building itself, we are proposing a 3-story wood frame wrap building, and it is wrapping around a precast garage as well as an internal courtyard. We are proposing 260 units, 5% of which are studios, 55% ones, 30% twos, and 10% threes. So a lot of people to come go around and shop at the retail center as well as across the street at Hawthorne Mall. We're also proposing 459 parking spaces, approximately 1/3 of which will be surface parking, 2/3 of which will be garage parking. In terms of access to the garage, we mentioned a little bit earlier, is from the west-hand side or west side of the building. And then on the east side of the building are all of our back of house elements, such as the mechanical spaces, the trash enclosures, as well as the loading dock. And we did this purposefully so that it would be away from the pedestrian traffic as well as a lot of the automobile traffic. In terms of the pedestrian access, like Matt said, the main building entrance is located in the southwest corner of the building, and these include spaces like, obviously, the lobby, the leasing area, a few seating areas, as well as the mailroom. And if you continue this red on the diagram, you'll see that this lobby area leads you into this long horizontal space, which we are intending to house all of our indoor amenities, including fitness room, some lounge space, a kitchenette, as well as the main club room. And what I think is really great about this space is that all of these spaces open directly into this internal courtyard, which we'll see a little bit more detail in this next slide, which houses things like our pool, which is roughly about 25 by 40 feet, a lot of cabana chairs, seating areas, grilling station, a very generous lawn for people to play lawn games on. This courtyard is roughly around 130 by 150 feet. And this space is mainly intended for tenants who want to be outdoors, but at the same time don't want to be outside the building itself. But if you zoom back out a little bit and look at our courtyard, what we have also provided, or I'm sorry, look at our landscape plan, what we have also provided are several mini courtyards surrounding the building in between what I like to call the fingers of the buildings. And these courtyards are mainly intended for intimate, small gatherings for the tenants, as well as for some tenants who, say, live on the north side of the building and don't really want to travel all the way down south to the courtyard itself to get a little bit of outdoor space. We, like Regency, also wanted to give a little bit teaser of what the architecture looks like. This is the view of the building when you're coming in from that northwestern drive, looking at that corner, and you can see what we've done is try to make the architecture a little bit more unique so that you can catch the attention of potential residents and also give it a little bit of a farm rustic look that will coincide with the retail. And while this gives a very good eye-catching moment, it's also secondary to our main entrance here, which you see here. We have provided things like the tower as well as details within the roof line that really calls back and pays homage to that Melody Farm history. And one of the other things that we would really like to point out that relates back to the retail are things like the color palette as well as the materials that we've chosen. And within the next week to 2 weeks, what we're really excited to bring to you are more realistic renderings that will show you that will be more relatable to the retail, and we'll look forward to showing that to you.
Our project contemplates millions of dollars of infrastructure improvement. We worked closely with your staff, with the county, with IDOT, to make sure that not only our site works, but also our site and our improvements improve the entire area. We've retained expert civil and traffic engineers, and they're here tonight to provide you with an overview of our traffic and engineering improvements, both off-site and on-site. First, Louis Abuna from KLOA, no stranger to this town or to almost every other town in the North Shore.
Thank you, Steve. My name is Louis Abuna. I'm a principal with KLOA. Good evening, and thanks for the opportunity to present in front of you. We prepared the traffic study that looked at the impact of the development on the area roadways and also identified the existing conditions and some of the deficiencies in terms of the capacity constraints at some of the intersections in the area. We got involved early on in the process. As the Regency team was starting to look at the property, we were brought on board to look at the traffic patterns and identify some of these concerns, look at the access.
Before you go on, have you made your traffic study a portion of the record before this commission? Because we don't have it.
The study has been submitted to the village.
The entire study?
Yes, it has been. We've been coordinating with the village staff for a long time on this, so the study has been submitted to the village as well as IDOT.
It has been submitted to IDOT, and I know it's gone through their review, but copies of the traffic study have not been submitted as part of this hearing process.
Everything we've submitted so far to IDOT has made its way to the village in terms of a submittal. We have not yet resubmitted to IDOT. Louis is going to talk a little bit. We had a meeting with them yesterday at District 1. But everything that has been submitted to IDOT up until now has absolutely been submitted to the village. It may not have been submitted to the village as a part of the packet that came in relative to this commission, but the village has every piece of information that we currently have in our possession.
And nevertheless, we will definitely make it part of this record. That's the beauty of having this over the course of several meetings, Mr. Chairman. As you know, we will make sure that it's part of your record.
It's very difficult in non-contextual way for you to talk about a very detailed, I assume, traffic study and improvements that we haven't seen. I mean, it's very out of context. I'm looking now at a roadway improvement plan, which it's fascinating, but I don't know why. So I'm not quite sure what you can do tonight until we really see that. But, you know, go ahead.
I'll give it a shot, Mr. Chairman, and obviously, if I miss anything or you need clarification, by all means, you know, let me know and I'll do that. So like I was saying, we have worked very extensively over time. We worked with the village staff, with your engineering department, with your outside consultant. We've also worked with Lake County. They've had the opportunity to look at our work and suggested improvements. But also, more importantly, we have worked very extensively with IDOT, which has jurisdiction over both Route 60 and Route 21. We've made submittals to them. We've received comments. As Matt indicated, we've sat down with them to go over their comments. We believe that we are able to address all their comments, and we believe that we're in a good position to be able to satisfy IDOT as far as the improvements and the request for the access. So what I'm going to do is briefly just to kind of give you a flavor in terms of what we are proposing to mitigate the impact of traffic in the area. We are very aware of the traffic issues, particularly at the intersection of Townline and Milwaukee. We studied it very extensively. We developed traffic models. We looked at traffic projections as it relates to this project, as well as background traffic, and looked at mitigating all these impacts to make sure that the traffic works in the area, not only for the benefit of this development, but also for the benefit of the motoring public and the regional traffic that travels through this intersection.
We asked this last week, and it was deferred to you to this week. What is the level of service at that intersection currently?
Currently, Mr. Chairman, the intersection in the morning operates at a level of service F. So F is indicating intersection that is operating at capacity. In the evening peak hour, it operates at a level of service, just bear with me here a minute. It operates at level of service E. And then on Saturday midday, it operates at level of service D. So the letters A suggests a very minimal delays at the intersection, very good progression of traffic. And then as you go into the D, you're reaching the design level of service. You're starting to see backups and some delays and cars having to wait perhaps more than one cycle. E is you're reaching the saturation or congestion level, and F is suggesting that there is breakdown in traffic, long queues, multiple cycles before you can pass through that intersection, as all of you have witnessed driving through that intersection, whether going east or west on Route 60 or turning right northbound from Milwaukee onto eastbound to Route 60, or you know, one of the severe examples is the westbound to southbound left turn movement from 60 to southbound on Milwaukee Avenue. So that's how the intersection operates today. We took that into account. We identified these breakdown points and areas where it needs improvements. And what this exhibit attempts to show, and this is kind of an overview, it's not very detailed, but what the red markings indicate is the areas where we are going to make improvements. So what you have here is Route 60, Townline Road. This is Milwaukee. This is the site. This is Hawthorne. This is the River Tree Court Shopping Center. Our site will have two points of access of Milwaukee, which will align with the signals into Hawthorne Mall. We'll have two additional restricted access points, the right and right outs, between Route 60 and then between the signals. And then we will also have a main access on Route 60 aligning with River Tree, and this will signalize intersection. IDOT has, pending all these improvements that we have indicated and IDOT has vetted, IDOT has approved this as a signalized intersection, and that's a very important aspect in terms of the access serving the site. That was one of the first things that we looked at in terms of how we can get the people in and out of here safely, and this we identified as an important entry and exit point to the site. So related to these improvements, as you can see, we are going to add significant capacity to the roadways. We will add a third through lane on Townline Road, both in the eastbound and westbound direction. Currently, there is a third westbound lane that starts west of the signal on Route 60. We will be starting that third lane just right after the bridge, so we'll have a third lane going all the way through the intersection, continuing west. Similarly, we will start a third lane going eastbound just immediately east of the signal into Hawthorne, and that third lane will continue east all the way and then dropping down by the bridge at this location. We will be providing a continuous right turn lane that will start east of the proposed signal all the way to the intersection, be longer than what is there today. We will provide dual left turn lanes on Route 60 for westbound to southbound and eastbound to northbound. So matching what's on Milwaukee currently, the dual left turn lanes. And then the other significant improvement is adding a northbound right turn lane on Milwaukee. This is a very heavy movement, carries over 400 cars during the peak hours. This movement causes significant backups on Milwaukee in the northbound direction. Providing this will be a huge relief to that traffic in the northbound direction. Similarly, along 21, we are providing a continuous right turn lane starting at the signal all the way north, serving the right in, right out, serving the signalized access, serving the other right in, right out, and then terminating at the north access road that aligns with the Ring Drive. And then we will be providing southbound left turn lanes at both of these intersections. And modifying and upgrading all these signalized intersections to accommodate these improvements. This is a close-up of what I just covered regarding Milwaukee. Again, this is the right in, right out. This is the signalized access. The Denny signal, the Hawthorne Mall, we're aligning with that, providing a southbound left, providing high capacity entry and exit point to help facilitate the movements of traffic in and out of the site. The continuous right turn lane serving the right and right out, and then the other access road into the site opposite Ring Drive. Again, multiple lanes in and out to maximize the capacity and move as many vehicles in and out during the prescribed green time that IDOT will allow for the driveway. And here we have the southbound left turn lanes again to allow for the left turns into the site without impacting the through traffic on Milwaukee. And here is the close-up for the improvements along Townline Road. This is the proposed signal opposite River Tree Court. Again, we'll have a left turn lane into our site as well as a left turn lane into River Tree Court. The start of the right turn lane at around about this location that would continue west all the way to Milwaukee. The start of the third through lane along Townline Road that would match up with the start of the third through lane west of Milwaukee. And here we're starting the third eastbound lane on Townline that would continue through Milwaukee and then east through the proposed signal before it tapers down to 2 lanes to the east. The provision of the dual left turn lanes on Townline in both directions. One thing this dual left turn lane is going to do is What we noticed is there's a lot of traffic that cuts through River Tree Court currently. People are cutting through in this manner through the River Tree Court and out at the signal to the south to avoid the backups that are occurring here. We also saw a lot of the reverse of traffic that is going northbound that cuts through River Tree Court. We believe that these improvements, the dual left turn lanes, will minimize that cut through River Tree Court. We modeled some of that traffic, rerouting back to Route 60, and our improvements can accommodate that additional traffic as well as the traffic from our development. And here we have the northbound right turn lane. We're providing a 300-foot northbound right turn lane, which is a significant amount of widening, but it's needed. Again, it's a significant amount of traffic, over 400 cars that turn in the morning and in the evening, providing that right-hand turn lane that can go not only with the green ball for the traffic that moves north and south, but would also move with what we call an overlap phase. Overlap phase when the left turn arrows come up for the left turns from Route 60. These movements will also get the right turn arrow. So they're going to get additional green time, additional capacity, and that would help move that traffic and cut down on the queuing and the backups that are experienced on Route 21. Now this is the geometric plan. This is the kind of plans that we have submitted to IDOT. We have shared with the village engineering department. These gets into the details of stacking, tapers, lane widths, crosswalks, and all the details that go into it. But you can see again the additional lanes, the third lane that goes westbound on Route 60, the long continuous right turn lane, the dual lefts, the left turn lanes at the signal opposite River Tree Court. You can see part of the right turn lane here, the dual left turn lane coming from the west. These are, again, significant improvements. We have made a lot of progress with IDOT. IDOT has approved this signal. They agree that it's warranted, it's needed. They have agreed with these improvements. They've given us a number of comments that really deals more with the details of the design more so than the acceptability of it. They have accepted what we have done. They have recognized that the improvements that we are proposing go a long way in addressing the regional capacity constraints that exist at the intersection. And what we have determined that with these improvements and with our traffic added on top of it, as well as the regional growth that we are required to assume by IDOT, that the intersection will work far better than it does today. The queues are going to be significantly reduced. We modeled it, we shared it with the village, we shared it with IDOT, and it shows very clearly that the queues that you see today, for example, in the evening going in the westbound direction on Route 60 that could extend past the bridge, the creation of those 3 lanes and the dual left turn lanes, those queues are dissipating, even with our traffic added on top of it. The delays at the intersection will be reduced by almost 40% over existing conditions. The level of services will improve to the acceptable level of service D, particularly in the evening peak hour. So there's going to be a significant improvement. I mean, it's going to be immediately felt, even with the traffic from the proposed development. So again, we believe that this proposal, these infrastructure improvements are adequate and will address the traffic impacts.
Thank you, Louis. Our final presentation this evening will focus on our on-site infrastructure improvements, our storm sewer and our stormwater improvements. And to discuss that is our civil engineer from Manhard. I call on Jesse Conrad.
There we go. Good evening, Jesse Conrad, Project Manager, Manhard Consulting, here to talk about the site plan and internal improvements. So to start, we've already begun discussions with ComEd to replace the underground overhead power lines along Milwaukee Avenue in this area. I'm circling here. So those will be buried underground through to the intersection and then go back to the overhead poles that exist today. Additionally, as I'm not sure if everyone's aware, there is existing water and sanitary that's installed on the property that runs through the back of the property in this area. So there is existing sanitary and water main on the property that will be tied into. Additionally, in terms of stormwater detention and storm sewer, there's an existing detention basin in the rear that was constructed in the early 1990s. That basin will be expanded to the greatest extent practical to provide the stormwater detention that's required for our development. Also, there are 3 sewers currently that discharge in this general area of the project that generally take stormwater runoff flows from the IDOT roadway system and discharge it on the property, and it drains overland, generally right through here, and back eventually to the river. That will be replaced by a box culvert, a large 3-foot by 6-foot diameter sewer that will discharge at this point, then drain in a natural or a naturally planted drainage way, which will allow that water to be cleaned to some extent so the water quality is improved prior to it getting to the river and discharge in almost the identical spot where it's discharged today, continuing that drainage pattern. In addition, one thing I missed on the detention basin, we are going to replant the basin with native vegetation so that it'll be a little bit more cleaned up and manicured, but native plantings that'll grow in over time, additionally to improve that water quality. There will also be an aerator put within the basin to help with algae growth as well that we know has been an issue with the stagnant water sitting in the basin at times. That's the general gist of the on-site improvements from a utility perspective. Thank you.
So members of the commission, next week we're coming back with our architecture for our buildings and landscape architect. But we have all of our experts that testified tonight still here. We are all available to answer questions that you may have about any portion of our presentation or any portion of our application. And if is there additional information that you'd like us to bring back? We've got the traffic study, and anything else that you'd like us to bring back at subsequent meetings, we're happy to do that. So, Mr. Chairman, we're all available for questions from you or from any member of the public.
Any questions? Jim?
I have a question for Joe, I guess. Is this site part of the retail district that some of the other sites are on this corner?
I believe it is. I'd have to confirm, but, and you mean the overlay district?
Right.
I believe it was contemplated to be included, yes.
Okay. Does the residential portion of this present a problem then?
It does not, no. No.
Okay.
I have a few different questions. On the mall property has 5 intersections around it, and it's 3 times the size of this. And you guys are proposing 5 intersections roughly for a smaller property. What's the necessity for the 2 right-in and right-outs along Milwaukee? To me, traveling northbound in Milwaukee, it seems to be creating more of a hazard.
I'm sorry, Jeff, you were asking about the right-in, right-outs?
Yeah, what's the necessity of those for the development, having 3 6-lane intersections? Why do we need 2 extra right-in, right-outs?
Well, for a couple reasons. Obviously, one is for the convenience for the retail that particularly fronts 21. That makes it convenient access for people to get in and get out. But I think the bigger reason is to help distribute the traffic and relieve the traffic load from the signalized intersections. The right-in, right-outs are if designed properly, which they will be, and with the existence of medians and proper designs, they're very efficient, and they do not interfere with the flow of traffic on Milwaukee. We are providing a continuous right turn lane that is going to help divert the traffic from the through traffic on Milwaukee, allow the people to get in and get out. So providing that access will complement the signalized intersections and will help get people to their destination quicker from an internal standpoint, and also reduce the traffic loads at the signalized intersections.
across from the east intersection, connecting to the trail towards the canoe launch, I noticed towards the Milwaukee and 60 that you guys are improving the sidewalks there. Are you improving the sidewalk from the canoe launch to the development?
You want to address that?
There exists a sidewalk from the canoe launch, which is located here,
Right.
along the southern portion of Townline Road out to River Tree today. That exists. What we are going to do is do a at-grade crosswalk here, which will connect to our sidewalks in this area that will then connect into the existing sidewalk here and then back into the canoe launch.
Is that sidewalk, is that crosswalk going to have a walk sign?
Yes.
And that was considered in your analysis to do and that's going to work all the time, right? It's not going to be shut off during rush hours?
It will be a push-button operation, so, pedestrian push-button, so it would be on a recall basis. It will not come up every cycle, but if the pedestrian pushes the button, then it will be recalled.
And you don't think that's going to create more congestion there?
Well, we've taken that into account. You want to provide the connectivity, you want to provide a safe crossing for pedestrians. It's not going to be recalled every cycle, but it's going to be, when pedestrians are there, it will be recalled. We have taken that into account. We've designed the signals and the signal timings to allow for the pedestrian to cross, enough time to cross Townline Road. But yeah, it's already factored in.
One more question before
Yes.
you run away. In your grading of the situation now on the roadways, you gave AM and PM and midday. Is that just during the week? Did you do something different on the weekend, or?
The AM and PM is for weekday. The midday is for Saturday.
Oh, that's not midday every day, okay.
Yeah, midday, AM and PM, and typically on a weekday, we study AM and PM because that's when you are capturing the highest amount of traffic on the roadway system, commuters to and from work. And then Saturday midday is when you typically capture the highest amount of shopping traffic in the area. And obviously, this is being high concentration of retail.
And
There's
that
that,
needed de-rating, huh?
as, when, on Saturday?
Yeah.
Overall, it
Backed up all the way to,
Overall, it did, but, again, there's, like I explained, there are individual movements that do break down, even on Saturday, particularly the left turns.
Just one more, one more thing while you're still here. How long does what is the timer? What's the proper time for someone to walk across eight lanes or 9 lanes? I'm just curious. You have to have that, it's gonna have a timer on it, right?
Right.
So,
It's, the IDOT requires that the walk time will accommodate a walking speed of 3.5 per second, 3.5 feet per second. So whatever the width of the road, you divide it by that, and then you allow 10 or 12 seconds for additional time for the, for the person to clear the street.
So what is that?
let me work on that for a
Oh.
minute.
No, not you, Scott. I assume it's in your traffic study because you studied this. What is
Yeah,
it?
well, I don't have it offhand. I mean, it depends on the width of the street.
But
It varies from,
Wait, you designed the street, so you tell us what the width is.
well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it's seven lanes wide. So
Okay.
7 times 11 feet, that's 77 feet, divided by 3.5. I'll get my calculator out. Not that good with math.
25.
Actually, it's 8 lanes at that point.
8 lanes.
Yeah, because
Yes.
that turning lane starts a little bit before that.
Yes, you're right. So 8 times 11.
So about 90 feet.
Right, 90 feet divided by 3.5.
So it's 40 seconds.
So 25.
Just wondering, I was just curious.
25
It's
by-
a lot, so it's something to think about.
Well, but I mean, that's the amount of time is typically allocated also for the driveway to allow for the cars to exit.
Right. Well,
So, I mean, it works well with the intersections that we're designing.
How close is the right-in, right-out that is just to the north of 60?
Believe it is,
It's with Whole Foods, basically, right?
it's 350 feet.
And you think that actually is a usable right-out with the traffic on Milwaukee and the turning off 60?
Yeah, I mean, it will work, you know.
Okay, but let's put it in concrete terms. Have you driven this area, or is this all a study you've done?
Oh, absolutely.
Which?
I've done both.
Okay, and you think you can make a right turn out of there with traffic in the evening or the morning?
Absolutely.
You got to tell me when to drive there then.
I mean, especially with the improvements that we're making, I don't see why, you know, people wouldn't be able to capitalize on the gaps and the traffic.
If that's a turn-only lane, do people have to turn there at the proposed Whole Foods entrance?
If the northbound right turn lane?
Yes.
Yes. We're starting that northbound right turn lane immediately north of the signal, and it's going to continue all the way north across the entire frontage of the site. The intent of it is not somebody to ride it from one end to the other. The intent of that is to allow people, as they choose to enter the site, to then utilize that right turn lane into the site.
But you're using traffic talk. Use reality. Is that going to be in such a way that the Vernon Hills Police will ticket you if you use that as a through lane?
It will be designed so it will not allow you.
That's not the question. Can you drive that as a through lane?
No, you can't.
Why not?
Because we're going to design the right and right out, for examples, will be designed so that it will be striped out, and it does not allow, from a striping standpoint, again, somebody may, but from a striping standpoint, from a visual standpoint, it will not suggest to the driver that you can drive it from one end to the other. The intent of this is to allow cars to enter these driveways using these lanes, but not to ride it from one end to the other.
I think we understand the intent, but the reality is stripes don't mean anything. And if there's heavy traffic, people will ride that lane to the very end and then cut over.
And again, our analysis show that's not going to be the case. The traffic north on Milwaukee, while it's heavy, it's not as heavy as it is south of Route 60. And the way the traffic flows and the way our analysis show, northbound direction is never going to be an issue.
Yeah, well,
The capacity is there. The Milwaukee gets a tremendous amount of green time. It does today. It will continue to do that in the future. We did not identify any particular issues on 21 north of 60. The majority of the concerns and the capacity constraints that we identified and we observed were at the intersection itself.
I think you can tell that we're concerned about traffic, obviously, in this intersection. And, you know, you can have studies done on it, and when this is built and you're gone, we live with the reality of what this is going to be. And a lot of times, the studies and what really happens can vary somewhat. Not questioning your methodology, but I think that's a concern we have with this site and this intersection, is what it is today. I think definitely the improvements are going to help, but that's why we're asking, I think, for more information and
Sure.
Better understanding.
And I would echo that we care just as much, because if this intersection fails, our $200+ million net private development fails. It will not work. So I wanted to take a couple steps back on how we got to this. That probably is appropriate. We started with this study almost 9 months ago, and in 2 different technical reviews, we've sat down with village staff, village engineer. You have also, as a village, hired an outside civil engineer who has reviewed all of these plans. All of these plans that you see in front of you have been accepted by your village engineer as well as by your outside consultant. All of those plans subsequently went to the county. The county chief engineer has reviewed all of these plans. She is in acceptance of these plans. All of these plans subsequent to that went to IDOT and have gone through a round of comments, 2 rounds of comments with IDOT. And we sat down with them yesterday. They have accepted these plans. I'm not a traffic engineer, but I do trust that with that many layers in place, all of these concerns that you're bringing up have been vetted, all of them have been accepted. We're happy to provide more detailed analysis that you'd like. I think village staff has a lot of that analysis that they've already done as well, and whatever you specifically would like out of us, we're more than happy to give you.
Does the light timing change at the Denny's light and at the Ring Road light to allow greater access to the site?
The phasing will change, obviously, because it has to allow for that fourth leg. The amount of green time that they get will not change, no.
Okay, so it's still going to favor Route 21?
Oh, absolutely.
To the same extent it is favored?
We are proposing a slight adjustment on the Milwaukee Avenue green time, just a slight adjustment from taking some of that green time and allocating it to the driveways.
What does that mean?
Meaning, like, for example, Milwaukee gets, every cycle, it gets about 110 seconds out of the 150-second cycle length of green time. We are suggesting that maybe 5 or 7 seconds be taken out of Milwaukee and given to both entrances.
Is that going to be similar to the new light that would be on Route 60?
Well, right
No
now,
light
there is
there.
no
I know.
light there,
I
so we have to take some of the, right now it gets 100% because free flow. So yes, so we are allocating green time to both our entrance and River Tree. And return to doing that is the improvements that we're making in order to make sure that the flow of traffic continues and that there will be no backup from one signal to the other. That is IDOT's biggest concern, is they don't want queues from one traffic to spill into the other.
You guarantee that?
Well, our analysis and methodologies and the modeling that we did definitely indicate that it's not going to back up.
Will you guarantee that?
I don't know what that means. Again, I can't guarantee it if there is unforeseen conditions, but under the standards that we follow in traffic engineering and based on the reviews that Matt has indicated, and IDOT that has the ultimate jurisdiction over this, and IDOT, if they are the ones who, when you propose any signal anywhere in their system, their level of review and analysis and everything goes up a notch over, and they are accepting of the signal.
What our concern is, and I don't think you're appreciating it, is that we've seen lots of traffic studies. We've seen lots of development studies, and many times, and I should probably say every time, they don't come to fruition. There's always something that doesn't work. And our concern here is that this would be a very successful project, and your concern that it's going to be detrimental because of the traffic. Now, I know you're not going to guarantee you're not going to put it, but what we're asking really for is, and it's very nice for us to hear that, you know, we modeled it, we talked to other people. I don't find that persuasive, because if you say you talked to other people, there was no reason to come here tonight. We didn't have to look at this. So we're looking at it because our concern is the impact this will have, because development, especially of a project like this, is not necessarily a right, it's a privilege. And you're asking for a privilege, but there is a substantial community that lives here and lives in the environment around this intersection and around Vernon Hills that needs to be able to go through this and have it work. And I appreciate that you've done all these studies, et cetera, but what we're really asking for is it really going to work? For you to say that it's substantially improved to a D, if we probably came to you, you'd say you shouldn't have an intersection working at a D to start with. You know, so to say it's improved, you're just taking a bad situation, making it a little less bad. So that's really our concern here, is that what we're hearing these things, we haven't seen the whole study, but even so, what really is going to be the reality of the impact of this corner with these, now I guess it's, what is it, 5 entries if we counted them right, or 6 entries we counted, with what should be a very successful both residential as well as commercial development. And that's what our concern really is.
Understood. As I said, it's gone through a very thorough vetting from a variety of angles. If there are specific questions that you would like answered relative to those studies, both your traffic engineer, as well as your paid consultant, as well as all of our studies are at your disposal. If you have specific questions related to those, we're more than happy to dig deeper. But we thoroughly feel that it's been looked at, and it's been looked at from a variety of angles. We certainly appreciate the traffic piece of this. We're retail developers, and it's the number one thing we get asked on every new development. It's not new to us. But what is new and what is different about this development is you had a regional problem already, and you've had it for decades. We are, as developers, a part of this project, putting millions of dollars to solving an issue that arose before we ever got here. And we certainly understand that that's an issue that needs solved. IDOT understands it's an issue that needs solved. The county understands it needs solved, and certainly the village understands it needs solved. We're solving it. We're making it a lot better than it is today. And all of that information is available to you. Just let us know exactly what you'd like, and we'll get it to you.
In your matrix of site development or site selection, do you look for sites that have D traffic around them?
We look for sites that are heavily trafficked.
That wasn't my question. Do you look for D signalization around you?
We have certainly developed a D signal.
That's still not really the question, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
That's
We look at
fine.
heavily
No,
trafficked.
that's fine.
Well, I'd like to provide a little more testimony, because this isn't our first time we've done this. At our project down at Gulf Road and Waukegan Road, the very similar situation, the confluence of two state highways. We added a traffic signal. We faced this exact same round of questioning. We added a very, almost eerily similar amount of improvements. And I can say, Chairman, that is exactly why we were attracted to this site, is because we knew what it was going to take to make it better. We made it better there. I would encourage you to go down and look, and go down and talk to the Village of Gulf, talk to the Village of Glenview. We absolutely delivered on our promise, and that's one of the main reasons we were attracted to this site. It had similar challenges, and we knew how to fix them. So please let me know if there's any more details you'd like, and we're happy to get it to you.
Anybody else on traffic?
What is the, run away. So, it's a D, it's gonna be a D when it's done, essentially, is what you've told us. What does it take to make it a C?
We pretty much, in terms of improvements, I mean, we have 3 through lanes, double left turn lanes, and right turn lanes on all approaches, pretty much. Unless you go to additional through lanes, you know, pretty much the capacity is maxed out in terms of the improvements that can be made at that intersection. Again, our analysis looked into the future. This is not just existing, not just the development. We did project traffic in the future, so we added some safety in terms of traffic in the area. We estimated the traffic based on traffic engineering practice in terms of looking at a trip generation handbook that predicts the trips for uses of this type that historically has been on the high side. So I think there is enough safety factors built into the analysis that while it's showing level of service D, and let me clarify, level of service D is an acceptable design level of service. This is what IDOT and all the highway agencies thrive for in terms of designing intersections. Would they like to have it a C or a B? Absolutely, but this is a heavily trafficked intersection. Again, you know, while it's operating at D, we look at other criteria. We look at, you know, the queuing of traffic. We look at how many cycles does it take for the traffic to clear the intersection. We look at, are we providing enough stacking for the turn lane so the traffic doesn't spill over? So there are a lot of other factors that we look at. The level of service D is only one measure, but you know, we drill down to many other factors to see, is everything working well together? What can we do in terms of interconnecting the signals? Because this is all part of a system. Is there going to be a need to re-optimize? Are there any other things we can do with the phasing? So there are a lot of things that can be done and will continually be done over time. And IDOT does that. I mean, they go back and do re-optimize the signals every few years because there is change in demand. There is change in shopping centers. There's change in you know, traffic patterns. And so in order to make sure that things are flowing smoothly, that's part of the process. So all of that is really what goes into it. It's not as simple as level service is important because it gives you an idea of what the overall operations are, but there are a lot of other things that we do look at the same time.
Okay. How many, 60 and the entry has a walk signal. Do any of the other intersections have a walk signal?
21 and 60 will have walk signals as well. And IDOT has been pushing on the complete streets where, accommodation for all modes of transportation, traffic, vehicular and pedestrians, and they like to see accommodations for pedestrians as much as possible.
All right, so you're going to construct a new sidewalk along Milwaukee as it approaches going northbound to 60, correct? Is that how I read?
Was the question about a sidewalk along Milwaukee?
Yes, right? Oh, as far to the right as you can go.
There will be no new sidewalk
No.
here,
Far to the right. Keep going. You're not far enough.
Other side there.
right here?
Over here. It
Yes,
says new
this is a
sidewalk.
new sidewalk here,
Okay.
correct. Based on our additional lane here, we need to, it's all within the right-of-way, it needs relocated and rebuilt.
Okay, and then you're adding one on the opposite side of that intersection
That's
on
correct.
Route 60.
No, for them.
And that doesn't really go anywhere except to cross Milwaukee or,
It brings folks down here to the extent they would like to, and then they can enter into the shopping center,
if they were to cross from,
if they're able to cross from here. Yep, that's correct.
okay. And the idea is to put people internal to your site to walk the rest of it.
That's absolutely correct. With our 20-foot wide sidewalks throughout the internal portions of the site, we absolutely want to promote traffic within, all the way around. There's a walkway here as well. Oops.
So there's not an entrance to like Whole Foods from that sidewalk you have along 60?
It's the grade difference, so as you're coming down, as you know, when you're sitting at this intersection today, as you go further to the east, you're coming down a grade. The grade difference didn't allow for that. So we pushed the sidewalk all the way out to the intersection here.
I have a couple comments. First of all, I like all the access points off of Milwaukee onto this site. And specifically, I like the way it was handled, where cars can come off of Milwaukee and enter into the site without interfacing with another vehicle for, I don't know, a distance of maybe 40 feet. Especially from northbound traffic entering into the site. I think that's really good. I'm not as worried about the congestion at this corner as I am points beyond. You know, this intersection will have 9 lanes at each interface, and then in each one of these roads, next down to 2, it next down to 2 beyond Half Day Road, 22. It next down to 2 downtown Libertyville. It next down to, I'm saying 4, 2 on each side. 4 as you head east pretty rapidly, and then it goes down to 4 lanes as you get into Mundelein. All right, so those are the feeders that are coming into this intersection. And so I'm not as concerned about the overall density of vehicles being more than it is now or has been, because those feeders can only handle so much traffic. And when we're expanding the intersection the way this is expanding it, there's a lot more relief, at least at this corner, dealing with the 4 retail centers. So I feel that that is something to be considered as far as how you think about traffic. So multiple points onto this site, multiple lanes at the intersection versus the 4 lanes at the other choke points. I think those points, as traffic increases here, are going to be something that is going to take a lot of discussion in other communities, but it's not necessarily going to affect Vernon Hills as much, especially at the corner of 60 and Milwaukee. Just a comment. Oh, and I want to add one more thing, and these ones are always a little bit dangerous. When you're turning into Greg's Landing, going southbound, there's a turn lane that starts before Greg's Parkway. And it ticks me off every single day that people are driving and taking that turn lane like they would be going into a development that doesn't exist yet, but they just keep on trucking by it. So that's what you were talking about, okay? Yeah, that will happen. I don't know how long it'll happen. I know it's happening now because there's no development there. I think after there's a development there, I don't know if people are going to be so quick to enter in that turn lane thinking that that turn lane is for Greg's Parkway. They're going to think that that turn lane is for that development. But that is what you were talking about as far as driving past that entrance point to the development. And that is what they were discussing. You know, it bothers me because I want to go past the entrance point to that development and then feed over to Greg's Parkway. Well, anyway, that helps clarify what their concern was, and that's a real thing that's happening.
It's the same thing at 22 in the Tollway.
Right, yeah, right in our backyard.
Right, 22 in the Tollway is the same way.
Happens.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
Yeah.
point made about, relief at the intersection. I think downtown Libertyville and in Lincolnshire and just east and west, I think those are going to be bottlenecks. But I think there's going to be decent relief at the intersection for people who want to access these retail centers.
One more.
Jeff?
For the residential building in the northernmost intersection behind Building A, there's a sidewalk that connects to Milwaukee, but no pedestrian crossing. Is there a future intent to have a pedestrian crossing for those residents to get to the mall?
I think so, yes. I think the intent is there. We're still in the middle of that. But the intent is to have this sidewalk is what you're referencing here?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yep. I think the intent is always to try and get walkable. The problem is there's no sidewalk on the other side of the street. So the other side of the street, I think, needs to have something there so we can send people there and do it safely, but it's certainly something we're still considering that as the intent.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else on this issue? Okay, why don't we pause for a moment, since this is a public hearing, and if anyone from the public would like to say anything with respect to what you've heard this evening, we would entertain that at this point. The only things we ask is, number one, you have to speak from a microphone, and number two, you need to tell us who you are. Okay. Anyone? Sure. No.
I apologize for my attire. I was in the middle of eating dinner and remembered that you guys were having this tonight, so.
That's fine.
I apologize. My name is Stacy Pristis. I have been a 12-year resident of Vernon Hills in the same house, close to 60 in Deer Path. I have mixed emotions. I'm very excited that we're going to have this type of shopping center in our area. However, I do have just some comments in general. I don't think we need another drive-through pharmacy or bank. We have, 3 or 4 Walgreens within a couple miles of each other. One in Libertyville, which I think is a 24-hour one, and there's one further north. There's one in Lincolnshire at 22. There's one at Aspen. So I would prefer not to see another drive-through anything as far as the pharmacy goes. Same with a bank. I think there's a bank on every corner here. I don't think we need one. I don't think it needs to be part of a residential or shopping development. I am in property management. I have been for 22 years, both rental and condo. So I'm very aware of apartment buildings and things like that. I am concerned with 265 apartments going in with the potential of 400 to 500 residents. okay? That has not been discussed tonight. The units have been discussed, but not the residents. And so I am concerned with the amount of people that are going to be moving to this area, not necessarily transfers that are already in Vernon Hills, maybe few, but there's going to be an influx of people. That's going to create much more traffic than we already have. Some other people, I'm sure, tonight are going to speak about the school issue that we have, which has not been brought up at all tonight, which I'm actually shocked. We have an overflow of students in Vernon Hills, in Lincolnshire as well. We do not have enough room. We're over capacity for the students that we have in elementary, and that's going to flow into the middle school. We only have 2 high schools, Stevenson and Vernon Hills. There has been no discussion of that tonight. I'm shocked. I'm actually shocked, because I was just at the school board meeting the other night. I was there a couple weeks ago. They're adding trailers. I don't know if you're aware of that. They're adding trailers. I was in kindergarten in a trailer, so I survived, but if that's what we have to do right now, imagine with all these future residents that are to come to our area, especially 5% studios, and then we have 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 3 bedrooms. Those are going to be families. I don't think that that's a far stretch. I would also guess that I have to travel east to work, east being Townline Road or 22. Those are the only ways to get out of Vernon Hills. If you're going east, most people, I would say 80% of us in Vernon Hills travel east to go to work. Whether you're going north to Wisconsin or downtown to Chicago, this intersection scares me. It scares me. It frightens me only because it's great that we're adding extra lanes, but you're just pushing the problem down the road. Okay, you're going to have nine lanes at that corner, but like you said, everything merges into 2 lanes going west on 60, and again going east on 60, and going north and south of Milwaukee. You're just pushing it down the road. And when you get to Deer Path or further towards Mundelein, nobody's going to be ever able to get home or to work. It's just going to be a nightmare. And so I fear that. I also think that the traffic signal that you're putting in at River Tree, I understand why, because there's been a lot of accidents there actually at that River Tree intersection without a traffic signal, but I would think that a traffic signal would do better further east on 60, further away from the shopping area to kind of not bottleneck everything closer to the intersection. I think you're going to have too many traffic signals close to that intersection. I think that the idea of Melody Farms as this kind of farmer town thing, I'm not sure where that all originated. I'm sure it has a big history, but I've been here for 12 years. I've never heard of any farms in Vernon Hills, and although I'm not a city person whatsoever, I'm just perplexed by that whole notion that this needs to be a kind of a farming area. And so, no disrespect, I just don't get it. And so the other thing is that I had suggested, I think on some website, you know, about what you can have at that area. I think it's great that you want to have kind of a center courtyard area with things. I hope you have fire pits and big lounge chairs and ottomans. I hope you have water features for little kids, even though my kids are older. I referred to Easton in Columbus, Ohio. They have great water features in back of the restaurants where you could sit with your family, have a drink, and your kids are out playing in the water right in front of you. And same with the fire pits or little ponds with motorboats. I think it's a fun way to have the residential area involved, places you can walk your dogs, things like that. And one more thing, fast food. We were recently in the paper, I think it was a year or so ago, for being the fast food mecca of the North Shore. That's embarrassing to me. I don't want to be known as the fast food mecca of the North Shore. I'd rather be known for our great restaurants and active life and activities, and please don't put any more fast food. Thank you.
Hey, just one comment.
Yes.
This is the first of like 3 meetings we're going to have. You commented that you were surprised we haven't brought up the schools. We haven't got into that detail yet.
Okay.
This was kind
I
of
just
just
feel
been
like
an
we're so far
overview. You
along.
haven't seen anything yet.
Okay. All right, good.
We're going to get into a lot more detail on everything,
Good.
including the schools, next week and the week after.
Okay, great.
So you're welcome to come back for the next
I
2
will try
Wednesdays.
my best.
Okay.
Thank you.
Joe?
As they relate to the schools, we have, at the staff level, we have been in contact with District 73. as well as Vernon Hills High School, about these developments. We had meetings with them probably back in the winter of this year, just to show them preliminarily what we were looking at. As you noted, they have student population issues that they are trying to address. At a time when we met, they had not considered trailers or any other external resources. They would reach out to us to really just figure out what developments were going on in the village. There's the Cuneo Mansion development, which will be adding an additional 128 single-family homes. There's a number of other residential developments taking place within the community that impact not just District 73, Hawthorne, but also Lincolnshire Prairie View, which I know was just recently in the news for their efforts to address the student population. So that is something that at the village level we do take very seriously. We do want to make sure that what's happening is something that can be addressed. When I've spoken to the superintendent from District 73, they are not as concerned with apartments. Their feeling is due to the number of one-bedroom apartments, which is about 155, that they will not generate a significant number of elementary school students. The Amley apartment complex just across the street, we did reach out to the school and the bus companies, who honestly normally know the student counts better than anybody else. They indicated that there's a total of 20 students, both high school and elementary total, that come from that property. And so their feeling was that that would probably be comparable to what would be developed from this property. Not to say that they have zero concerns, because certainly they do have, obviously, concerns overall as a region. But when they met with the village, they did not express any strong concerns about apartments of this makeup, which is primarily one bedroom and studios, with a smaller number of 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms.
Okay. Anybody else from the public? Sure. Right.
It's going to be very difficult to follow the young lady, but I'm Ken Straub. I'm the Vice President and Treasurer for Hollister Incorporated. We are the adjoining property just north of this proposed development. And we, as a company, we see a lot of positive aspects with this development, and we're very confident that we can work with both developers to optimize the benefits for both for them and for us. And we'll, in fact, we already have one meeting scheduled with the Focus team in early September to talk about that, to look at the site plan and such, because we have a very large associate base which is going to join the property. But we do have 2 concerns that we would like to express this evening. And the first is, one is and Scott spoke admirably about this, is the traffic flow. We would be the first intersection to the north. And we have real concerns today from a safety standpoint for the cars that leave Hollister Drive and have to go south. It is very dangerous to try to make that left-hand turn to come out onto Milwaukee. Now, we have the entire road, and so, we can go north and exit north if you're heading towards Libertyville, but it's not very convenient to go north and then come back south. There is a light there, but I can tell you today, and we can work with IDOT, but, it changes I'm going to exaggerate to make a point, every 5 minutes, and it lasts for 3 seconds, for green. So you can't really get many cars to cross. There's no cross route there. There's what looks like a service road that supports Cuneo, but there's no traffic on the other side. So it's really just us on the discharge. And I might add, it's just not us as our worldwide headquarters. We own the 2 medical office buildings there, so we have a lot of tenants from the medical profession in those 2 buildings. So that's our first concern. And then our second concern, and we experienced this, obviously it's not a surprise, we're on the Des Plaines River. So we, over the years, and we've been there nearly 40 years on this property, we've seen potential flooding, and we've had flooding within 10 feet of our building. And so we do have concerns. We know there's the wetlands, there's the property that can't be developed, but when you put asphalt and concrete on 40 acres and you don't have soil that can absorb the drainage, that water's got to flow somewhere. And you can channel it to the river, you can take it south from our building, but it's going to back up the river. So We would like to really see a good comprehensive study from the Army Corps of Engineers to give us the confidence that this isn't going to create a problem, not only for our major office building, but also for the two medical buildings. So those are our two concerns. You know, at the end, we like what they're proposing. We like that it's a high-quality, premium type facility, both even from the residential and the commercial. We could potentially leverage even some of the residential, maybe, but certainly the commercial. That's all I have to say for this evening.
Thank you.
My name is Tim Hart. I'm a commercial real estate broker with Colliers International, and I represent Hollister. I'm also a resident of Vernon Hills. So I'm just here representing Hollister and making sure they're asking the right questions and advising them. And I do have a couple quick questions as far as the development. What's the total square footage of the commercial space?
What's displayed on this plan, the total square footage is around 274,000 square feet.
And then the other question I had was as far as the village and their contributions to the development, if you can talk through if there's any TIF tax increment financing that's being contributed for the project?
So the property has been deemed TIF eligible by K. McKinnon Associates. We did do a study as relates to the site. It was deemed TIF eligible. And we are in current negotiations to provide assistance to the retail developer.
Is there a dollar amount yet that is known that you're
Currently, they're looking at $20 million.
contribution from the village?
You need to use the microphone. Sorry.
So you're saying there's $20 million being contributed from the village to the project?
That is correct.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Anyone else?
I had a quick question for the owner of Hollister. Sorry, I forgot your name. Just out of curiosity, could you describe the quality of the views from your building, your main building towards the river? Because I noticed that the office buildings and the medical buildings all front the river and parking's to the west. I just wanted you to talk about what those types of views are to the east.
I'm sorry?
Just what's the quality of the views? I'm just anticipating this
Quality
new
of the
development.
views.
Yeah.
I do have our facilities manager for our corporate office here, and he's got a lot more expertise on the facility and the grounds, so I think he could better address that.
My name is Eric Stavitig. I'm the facilities manager for Hollister. The quality of the views is outstanding. I mean, we look down the river, we have windows on all sides of our building. We've had early conversations with them as far as what they're planning to do on the dividing line. And they have intended or stated that their interest is to keep mature trees and keep that landscaping in place, basically. That's our hopes. We hope to keep it the wooded setting that it is today. So, does that answer your question?
I'm sorry that your office must face west. Or you don't look out your window.
Does not.
Or you don't look out your window.
I see a wall when I look out my window.
I'm sorry about that.
There's many that actually have a beautiful
We'll have to
view of
talk
the
to
river,
management.
and that's what it shows.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Katie Agam, and I am a 13-year resident of Vernon Hills. I live in Greg's Landing, and I am glad to hear that we're still in the earlier stages as opposed to the later stages with regards to the residential development. I am very happy with the ability for Whole Foods to come to our village. I'm one of the people that does drive to Deerfield and Northbrook and Deer Park to go to Whole Foods, so that is a big draw for the development. The traffic is a detriment to the project, but I think that with some of the improvements, I think that it will definitely help some of it. I do spend a lot of my time within village limits. I have 2 small kids, and I'm very surprised to hear that District 73 is not concerned with the addition of 40% of the units being 2 and 3 bedrooms of apartments, even being apartments. This, in addition to the Cuneo property being developed with the potential of 200 to 300 additional kids. We're at 100% capacity virtually in all the schools. 2 of my kids' classes or levels were bumped to additional sections. I know that they've added 300-plus kids in the last 2 years. There's a huge turnover in housing in Vernon Hills, and there's a huge influx in people that want to come and shop at places like this. But it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, that this development is in a tax increment funding district, and there will be little to no tax increase for the schools, and that is a huge concern for me. Since the residents fund the schools, we pay for the development in our shopping habits. This is who they're looking to come here. If our schools go down and we have 9s and 10s and excellent schools, and now all of a sudden we have 30-plus kids in our classes because we can't afford to build more schools because there's no more tax base, it's going to be a big problem. And then the development, this one and others like Hawthorne Mall or the other developments around here, will not have the shoppers that they are aiming to have, the upscale shoppers that go to restaurants and go to Whole Foods and go to the shops in these upscale communities. Obviously, this was short notice for me. I'm happy to come to the meetings, but I think that it needs to be looked at, the development, the impact on the schools. It's a huge issue right now. So.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Can I ask Joe a question? I know some developments we have, they make a contribution to the schools. Is there anything considered for this?
So as part of the TIF Act that governs TIF districts without the entire Illinois area, there is specifically money that is required by law that the village earmark towards schools, as well as libraries. It's a total of 42% of the increment generated from the growth and property tax revenue. So 40% maximum could be distributed to the schools. Essentially, around August, they would submit to the village a student population count verifying the number of students who reside within the development. And based off of formulas that are more complicated than I understand, we would then distribute to them the amount equal to that student population count.
Unrelated maybe to this development, but as we look at future developments like Loyola, I mean, which probably won't be a TIF district, obviously.
It will not.
So is that something we look at for contributions from the developers, possibly for the school system, especially in a development like that, where you're going to have single-family homes that will add to the student population?
Well, I guess there's two separate things. With the TIF ordinance and the TIF, that's the 40%. In addition to that, there are impact fees, which all residential developments are required to.
Okay, and this one included?
Correct.
Do we know what that dollar amount is?
In 2 seconds, yeah.
No, I'm sorry, I'm just curious. Maybe you guys know.
It's so much per.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can let us know next week, that'd be great.
Sure.
All right.
Good question.
Okay. Anyone else from the public? Okay, since this is a series of public hearings, we won't technically close the public comment, so we'll leave it open so we can have it in future meetings as well. Okay.
Could we
go ahead.
actually have a motion to continue the public hearing to the next meeting on August 31st?
Oh, wasn't it? Oh, sure. Okay.
So moved.
We need a second for that. Any discussion on that? Hearing none. We can do a roll call on that then?
Yes. Commissioner Baloo?
Yes.
Commissioner Cotton? Commissioner Hezzer?
Yep.
Commissioner Heidner?
Yes.
Commissioner Mulcrone?
Yes.
Commissioner Grog?
Yes.
Chairman Morris?
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions from the commission for anything?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes?
Before you adjourn your meeting.
No, we're not adjourning, but go on.
Oh. Then I was, before you adjourn, if whatever
Okay.
time that may be, do let us know what you'd like us to bring back.
Sure.
Next week.
Yeah. Okay.
I do have a request. I would like to hear from someone from Whole Foods to describe the rationale of having the building on the corner. I've done a lot of research on the 30 Whole Foods in the area, and there's only one suburban location that has this same situation, but you're looking at the rooftop and they're 100 feet from the intersection. So I would like someone to speak to that next time.
As a point of clarification, typically, folks from our tenants don't comment on that. We are preparing an exhibit to comment on that relative to the elevation change that we discussed a little earlier at the intersection. Once you overlay our landscape onto that elevation change as well. So we're preparing an exhibit to speak to that point exactly.
And also, I would like to add to that point in the fact that you described how you wanted the residential to be integrated with your development. And I think if you put the grocery store on the opposite end of the residential development, you do those residents a disservice. They can't walk there. They're certainly not going to walk there and lug their groceries across all that parking lot. It would be much more convenient to them if that was located near the residential area.
Certainly understand.
I do have a question for Joe again. You know, when we look at this corner, they always talk about it being the jewel of Vernon Hills. And the crown jewel of Vernon Hills. And we all remember the development to the due west of that, which is where Uncle Julio's is now, where there was a proposal to take that building down and actually build a very nice development with a water feature, and the village board said no, because we need something more impactful as you enter Vernon Hills. So now they're going to enter and see the back of buildings. I mean, I think this is a great development, don't get me wrong. This goes more to the village board. Have they commented on that now you're just going to see buildings, the backs of buildings? The back of Whole Foods is going to face Milwaukee.
So I can't speak for all the trustees' commentaries, but I do know they have seen the architecture. I do know that they have asked questions as relates to, justification for internal focus of the retail building, specifically at the corner. And what's been explained to the board members and to what the board members have at this point accepted is that Whole Foods wants to be closest to that hard corner as possible. And it has been my feeling and my obligation at the staff level to make sure that the backs of the building don't look like a back of a building, and that the architecture is of a consistent high quality throughout Milwaukee Avenue and Townline, that for individuals either in traffic or driving through aren't looking at that thinking that that's the back of a house.
I think at this time, we really have to give them a chance to present
Right.
their architecture and their
Agreed.
landscape architecture. It's going through a gauntlet always when you come through these hearings, and it's difficult to talk about things without representing them at the
Sure.
same time. So,
Right, but they were asking for some direction on what they should come back with.
indeed, they know what they got to bring forward, and they know that it's got to be sharp. It's got to be sharp, So, it's there.
Can I ask, I don't know whether it's Ms. Lee or Mr. Anderson from Focus. There is a request for a variance with respect to parking, and not number I'm talking about, but size in your development. Why?
When we were first studying the parking sizes, one of the things that we realized from the village is that we were able to do compact parking spaces as well, a certain number. And when we looked at that size, I don't remember the exact size, but it felt to us as if we were cramming the cars in. So we did a quick study and found that if we did reduce the size of the parking to the way that we did, which I believe is 8.5 by 18, then we could fit roughly around the same number of cars as if we did the acceptable amount of compact cars, but at the same time have a safer ability for the residents to maneuver if we did do these larger but not compact sizes.
So in our packet, it talks about spaces will be permitted to have a minimum width of 7.5 and a minimum length of 13.5.
Right. So we opted to not do those compact sizes and instead do the 8.5 by 18.
Oh, so this is different then, okay. So it's 8.5 by 18 is the new?
Correct.
That might have been the
That's
case
fine,
of
no.
more information they needed.
That's fine, sure. Okay. All right, any other questions? Anybody?
Do you, if you can come back up again. Sorry, and get your exercise. Are you targeting a certain market? for
Well,
your
we're not
residents?
technically legally allowed to target anyone, but just from understanding the area around us, it seems as if there's millions of office space around the area, and so what we're expecting are young professionals.
In light of that, I'm the former president of the school board, and what we found is that when high-end rental residential goes in, it typically does not generate lots of children. It typically is a little different. More, I'll use the term affordable than low-end residential seems to generate more children on this. So my guess is that, I don't know what your rentals are going to be, but I've been looking at some of your finishes. This is going to be more of a high-end residential development in terms of, cost or rental. And therefore, I'm sure there will be some children, but it probably will not be a very extensive amount. And my guess is you're also not giving lots of children amenities. There's not going to be a playground. There's not those type of things either.
Right, that's correct. And just to give you a little bit of perspective from one of our other developments at Glenview, currently we have about 200 units leased, and there's only 10 that are school-age children.
Just an example of kind of recent multifamily developments. When the Oaks was initially approved off of Route 45, they incorporated a playground space within the open area. They since went back to us and asked if they could instead put a bocce ball area with a grill, because what they were finding was that they were not generating a significant amount of school children to warrant that type of amenity. At the time, they were looking at a variety of things, but that was one item that they said, you know what, we want to go back and retool. I mean, for that area, for a one-bedroom apartment was, I believe, at the time I looked, was about $1,600.
Okay. All right. Okay. To the extent that you're going to come back next week and produce or provide, among other things, information with respect to the architecture, the landscape, et cetera. And when looking at the staff recommendations, because they would be consistent with a series of conditions, and many of those conditions require compliance with architectural plans, photometric plans, landscape plans, and the like, it may make more sense to defer voting on each of these until we see that, because otherwise we're kind of voting in a vacuum on individuals unless someone has, or if it creates a horrible staff issue.
Accurate.
As it relates to the conditions of approval, I would recommend deferring action on those items until, honestly, I think it's probably best to wait until the last items are considered. That way, but while we're moving forward, if there are conditions of approval that you wish to add, that's certainly something I think we can put into the record at any time.
Right. And then the only thing which you didn't talk a lot about, but hopefully will next week, is there's a plat of subdivision that's also required here. I think we kind of know what it is, but at least you can put in what you're asking for and explain it as well. Because my understanding is those 3 lots are going to be the so-called eastern ones or the undeveloped ones. Okay. Okay. Anything else we need from anyone this evening on this for questions?
Do you want to take any actions on any of them? Or no?
I think we'll just wait for the conditions if we can. Because they're subject to conditions. So, okay.
Are there any of the variations that are being requested? It looked like you had them all as what staff was agreeing to, is that correct? You weren't disagreeing with any of their requests?
Well, the one item that I think warrants discussion with the commission is as it relates to signage. I mean, right now, staff is supportive of the variations, but we also acknowledge it is a departure, a significant departure from what has been approved in the past. I think once you see the type of signage they're proposing, I think you'd agree it's certainly unique and something that would add a lot of design elements to the buildings, and I think that's something that can certainly be discussed in greater detail.
As we get more details, understanding the variances, right?
Exactly. I think just looking at the list, it can look at quite a large number, but when you actually see what type of design features they're talking about, I think it makes a lot more sense. Painting signs on the side of a building, for example, is something that has not historically been considered within our sign code, but it's something that certainly, given the nature of this development, something to be considered.
And you can address the site signs as well. whatever site signage you have in terms of what's either on the street or internal, at both. You don't do it tonight when you do all the signage together.
Correct.
you'll
I
more
just
than
wanted to make sure that we don't walk in here and you don't have it. I think we've submitted that already.
Yeah, we have, yeah. right.
Okay, so you have all the signs.
We just want to talk about it, so I have you
Yeah,
present it.
absolutely.
Right. Okay.
On the variations for the square footage on the residential, there's an asterisk after all those sizes. Does that refer to anything?
There's an asterisk next to the variance in the square footage of the
Yeah,
units.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
You know, that's the Scribner's on my part.
I think they were asking what the question was.
Yeah, okay.
Doesn't mean
All right.
anything.
As it relates to the residential variations that are included on page 17 of your packet, there's a number of them related to setbacks and the like, and some of those really do pertain to the plat of subdivision. And but if there are additional comments that you have issues with them, or any other feedback, I mean, it would be important for just staff and the petitioners to understand. As it relates to their parking, staff feels very comfortable with granting the parking variation for the residential property.
I think when we get more detailed presentations, that's when the variances will make more sense.
Yeah. Okay. But you're talking about the number, not this, because the size they've changed or backed off of.
Well, the size is, I think that was more of just a note of what could be, is what's allowed.
Gotcha.
But there are a number of them that are the 8.5 by 18 in dimensions.
Okay. All right. Okay. Anything else on this for this evening? Okay, so we've continued the public hearing with respect to these requests until next Wednesday, which is the 31st, I believe. Where,
7:30.
right, at 7:30. We'll consider what we talked about, the amendment to ordinance 9630, the special use permit to allow the various restaurants and carryouts, which we will discuss, the landscape plan, architectural plan, and the plat of subdivision at that point. We already have, we've seen, and you've mentioned the 18.3 comments with regard to the special use permit in our packet, which is part of the record for this meeting as well. And we also note that notice of this was provided to adjoining or surrounding landowners. We haven't received any responses other than, of course, Hollister, which is the one neighbor to the north that came this evening.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
One item of note, for impact fees, I do have that information, actually. It's $168,000 for the elementary school, $31,000 for the high school, and $953,000 for the park district. The way this formula is generated from, it comes from, it's commonly referred to, at least in the municipal vernacular, as the Naperville ordinance. They conducted a study many years ago that has been legally defensible and has been therefore copied by every municipality I'm aware of in order to justify this.
Right. Okay. All right. So the next things we have on our agenda this evening is approval of the minutes of the April 27, 2016 meeting. Any comments on those? If not, we need a second to approve those. Okay, we can do that by acclamation. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that passes. Then we have the approval of the minutes of the July 13, 2016 meeting. Any comments on those? Okay, so we need a motion. Oh, wait, oh, you have something? 13. Right.
I know, this is like,
Okay.
We always confuse Scott and myself. Page 2.
Okay,
Did you say something that was right?
yes, the question.
Page 2, just above the Roman numeral 4.
You turned on? There you go. Okay.
Page 2, just above Roman numeral 4. We were on July 13th. Is that the one you're on?
yeah. Right. We're not there. Absent.
Maybe this isn't printed right.
No, he's got a different one, Joe. He's up here.
Okay.
Actually, it's August 10th. I don't know why it says July 13th on the top.
Okay, well, okay, so for July 13th, we need a second to approve those. Okay, all in favor of that?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, that passes. Now we have the approval of the minutes of August 10th And this is the one apparently has the wrong date on this.
That doesn't help. Yeah,
And then on page 2,
yeah.
I guess that's Jim, not Scott.
Womp womp.
Okay? So with that change and the date change, is it okay then? Yep. Okay, we need a second to approve those as modified. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Those pass. Do we have anything else we need to talk about this evening, or just we'll be back next week?
We will be back next week to consider these items. We'll make sure that traffic analysis is included in here. And then if there's any other questions that relates to the variations, the other question is, we have right now scheduled for August 31st and September 7th.
Right.
4 discussions. If there's a specific time frame you'd like to discuss signage, whether that's on the 31st or the 7th. Right now, we'd plan it for it to be on the 7th. I'd have Mike Atkinson be here, so since he knows the sign code like the back of his hand. Well, the 14th, the 14th is scheduled for a public hearing for the Forge Club. That is the townhome development.
Right.
As far as variations are concerned, I
Yes.
just sort of like to know if we've granted those variations to other people, those types of variations.
We have granted variations for size of multifamily units in the past. I believe we've done that for a number of
I
developments.
just want to make sure it's not any, this isn't any less than
Seems like
those.
it's pretty,
Yeah, we have.
It's more, yes, but it seems like it's a little bit
A little
more.
bigger, yeah. They're
Al- Although we did go down to 600 and something.
Right, the ones in 45. Right. Okay. Anything else this evening? If not, we have a motion to adjourn. We need a second.
Second.
All in favor of that?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, we're adjourned. Good night.